Rainbow Six Siege is a worldwide phenomenon, played by over 50 million people and heading into its 5th year with even bigger and bolder plans. It's easy to think that it was always destined to succeed, but every game has those moments, those key decisions that can either make it or break it. And with Siege, breaking it is where it all began.
When this iteration of Siege started, it started with Xavier Marquis working with a team that was making the destruction engine. So the only prototype they had was a prototype of destruction. So the first premise of making Siege was build around destruction. I think we would have cut everything but the destruction.
Level design wanted to have half of this wall destructible, half of this wall non-destructible. So people were really confused, artists were really confused on how do I make this realistic, how do I make this believable.
In terms of tech, because you want destruction, but you want to be competitive, especially on consoles, so you want to still maintain the 60 FPS. Usually those two things are mutually exclusive. But in Siege, we're like, hey, you know what, we want both.
So there's a lot of constraints that stacked up. I don't remember any moment where we felt like destruction would be impossible, but there were a lot of just, gauging how much can we do this.
The first tournament at Ubisoft, I think it was the first tournament at Ubisoft ever, when we realized that one bullet was making one hole and you could get shot or kill someone from an unseen place. It was perfect. Destruction brought a lot to the game. It made the game, in fact.
One of the other difficulties was to find the right balance between how much you can destruct versus how much we enforce given level design. I think this is where a lot of other people, it was difficult for them because of the talented level design team that we have. They managed to find the right balance, that you still have the map, you still have level design, but there's still this feel of infinite combination, like year after year, you still find new line of sight, a new way to approach a site.
Sledge, Caveira, Ash, Thermite. These names are synonymous with Rainbow Six Siege, but these unique operators weren't always intertwined with the game's DNA.
So they had some internal tournaments, and they had a lot of tournaments. Since those tournaments were open to anyone in Montreal, I participated, even though I wasn't For Honor. But at that time, it was a class system. And I remember the day they took the decision to move from a class system to a unique peak operator system. A lot of core shooter people are like, this is crazy, this is the worst decision ever. What is this game? A shooter where I can choose my weapon, people really didn't understand.
It took a lot of time and convincing too. It took prototyping for sure, and even like that, it was difficult because I think the whole concept of having operators or heroes only starts showing its potential when you have enough of them for the whole choice thing to start being meaningful.
So Xavier Marquis came with the idea of having Operator Day. He wanted everyone on the team to contribute. So I gathered all level designers in a room and split them in a team, and they had to come up with 3 different operators. Which one I remember, there was an architect on the team. He designed the first iteration of Castle, how to reinforce doors, how to reinforce windows and everything.
I think that's the strength of this idea. It's not just a gameplay thing. It is for sure a gameplay thing first, but it's also this whole universe potential behind it is immense. The amount of fan love that we get around operators is pretty cool.
The ideas that I had, it was the negotiator. He speaks in a speakerphone and he says, "Think of your mama," and everybody starts crying. So they don't see it. So to me this was the kind of operators I would see. But no, now they're way better than that idea.
I like that.
Rainbow Six is a franchise built on taut action and tense combat encounters, which, historically, have played out in single-player campaigns. For Rainbow Six Siege, creative director Xavier Marquis wanted to write a different story.
Yeah, Xavier decided to go to the HQ and like present a project that was completely multiplayer focused, and I think it was scary for lots of us.
All the prior were all narrative driven. Focusing on PvP was really stressful, even for Ubisoft game. Like there was no game at that time, if I recall, that were only PvP driven from Ubisoft. So having this was a huge guts move from the team.
So I think this was kind of scary for a lot of us. We had doubts of, okay, is this actually gonna fly by? Like, are we gonna get validated or just gonna get killed because of that? So it was scary. It's not just convincing the people at HQ. It's like so many actors that revolve around the game production. Like you have every people around business and marketing, people who are used to sell games a certain way. It's not easy. Like for sure, it's convincing all of these people that this is a good way to, like this is a good strategy for this game. It was very, very clear that we were making choices. And I like that. I like having the courage of making choices.
The full effort of the team was concentrated on the PvP. Not having to develop AI or characters behind or even support a narrative throughout the layout. It was super important to help us release great content, strong content.
Do you ever think of how easy it would be for Rainbow Six Siege to be a completely different game? One word, respawn, could fundamentally alter the game as we know it, and it almost did.
I know someone at Ubisoft with a very high creative position who said, oh, this is the first thing that's going to get cut when this is playtested at HQ. The first thing that they're going to cut is this one. And I'm really happy that he was wrong, but it gives an idea of how people felt about it. Like it felt like something that would never pass the gates, would never be validated. When we started playing with no respawn, the way that people moved, looked around them, like listened to what was happening, everything changed immediately. We could see that the relation we had with our character and our surrounding was completely different.
The moment where you start to hear the explosion, everything shake, and it's insane. I had a feel of, okay, I'm in a movie. You know, like I feel this moment of, oh shit, everything, and the tension was insane. And I was like, if I knew that I were able to respond, I would probably have just, sprint around, exploring the map, maybe get shot, but I don't care, I come back and stuff like that. Where here, I have just one life. You know, like it's matter, it creates instantly the tension that they were searching for. Super decision. We have new people that come, want to say like, well, we love Siege, but we want to make it even bigger and stuff like that. The first element that come back is that, okay, we should have to respawn. Because then you will see it's easier for newcomer, it will be appealing for more people and stuff like that. And every time we have to go back and explain why it's a fake good idea. You see what I mean? Like, because yes, clearly, and I won't deny that, games with respawn are more accessible by nature. It's maybe more appealing, less scary and stuff like that, but also the taste and the experience that you have is not with the same intensity, so you don't come back as you come back on Siege.
Rainbow Six Siege is now played at a professional level by players around the globe who compete for glory and lucrative prize pools on the world stage. But how do you take your game from development and launch to the grand stage of esports competition? The answer is, you don't do it alone.
From the first competition that we did internally, it was a goal. Everybody wanted to be like an esport game.
The legends of this internal tournament that they had between the devs, that's when they kind of knew they had something really good going on. There was no big crowds, but they saw how people reacted and how people got excited and how we have something really solid. Like this can happen.
The reality though is that you cannot say it's an esport game until it's accepted by the community. So everything was based on the competitive aspect of the game. And even though we were not able to say it out loud, it was always a focus.
I mean, the first SI was that first moment of like, we have teams from all sorts of places around the world. Like we have that are quite excellent, honestly, that play at a much higher level than we imagined. It was, yeah, it's hard to describe what really makes a game ready for this, because nobody's ever ready for it. I think it's just, the community wanted it.
Team vitality!
Gameplay first is always the rule on R6. It needs to stay like that. It will always stay like that. So everything is made for the competition, the fun, the appeal of an operator, but it needs to be an esport game.
Far side, the others are all now over towards B looking for it. Needs the one. We will head to overtime.
because we really maintain, I think, a virtuous circle between the community, the professional scene and how competitive the game is, and the game, it just contributed to what the Six Invitational is today, which is, going from 300 people to 5,000.
They say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there was a time when Rainbow Six Siege was, well, if not broken, then certainly in need of a tune-up.
With growth comes the need, I think, for a team to adjust. It was very important to say, okay, what we're delivering is not at the level of quality that it should be.
A lot of what we were doing was not scalable. We were based on problematic tech.
Ubisoft always wanted, to have this kind of game, like live games that last forever. Siege was the first one to encounter, let's say, the limitation of how we were making game before that. And that means on the way, we had to learn and we had to adapt. Operational is really the moment where the team had a big discussion with the company to say like, okay, so now we are on the way to be what we always wanted to be. That means a game that lasts forever. But this comes with a cost. This comes with technical decisions that we need to make, technical frameworks that we need to redo. So this is a moment where you can walk the talk. And they walk the talk. And they let us do that. And this was a turning point because this is where we were able to modify our ship to be like this big, everlasting ship that Siege is going to be for the next 10 years.
Yes, the decision is very hard when it comes to those moments, but the community is driven. Like, we'd rather fix our shits instead of having a 6 months and we lose everybody because the game is broken.
People understood quickly when we started communicating that this wasn't by any means a sign of the game's death. On the opposite, it was a sign of us investing in the future of the game. Because people saw the bugs, right? People saw that every time we released a patch, when we fixed one thing, we broke 3 other things. So that just wasn't sustainable. Anyone playing Rainbow could see it.
Overall, it was one of the best decisions that was taken on the project. The reality is that the game now is, I don't spend half of my time waiting for a match.
It also allowed ourselves to revisit how we communicate with our players and to refresh what we do creatively every season.
And I'll make sure you never escape it.
We are talking about the things that won, but there were also some other stuff that didn't won. They had to make some concession to be able to build this game and ship it in time and stuff like that. And what is coming in the near future is a realization of this vision, of this premise. And I will give you a concrete example. If you look at the prep phase of this game, from a design standpoint, you can see a promise. This is a moment where I will be able to get some information and build a strategy around. When you play Siege, you can see for technical constraint, technical reason that typically you already have committed to your operator before doing the prep phase. Why? Because first you choose your operator and then we have to load them. So we load the operator, you play the prep phase, you get the info, but you can do nothing because you're already committed to your plan. And to me, this is one of the things that we want to change. The prep phase, we want to give you opportunity to really adapt your gameplay and your plan based on the information, that you gather during these phases. And it's, in a way, it's something new because clearly it will change the gameplay. But if you think about it, it was here since the beginning. Even in the name, prep phase. It's just for technical constraint. There's a lot of reason of why we ended in this situation. But now, after 4 years, it's time to reopen and to finish to execute the vision of Xavier Marquis. This is, to me, the future that is coming.